She never told anyone this, but the moment she realized she was done, she was standing barefoot in the kitchen at 2:17 a.m., rinsing a wine glass she didn't remember filling. The silence wasn't empty. It was thick like wool stuffed into her ears. Outside, a neighbour's porch light flickered. Inside, the microwave clock blinked 2:17, 2:17, 2:17, as if time itself had given up on moving forward. She set the glass down, looked at her reflection in the stainless steel fridge door, hair loose, eyes tired but strangely clear. Not angry, not broken, just still. It wasn't the cheating. It wasn't the forgotten birthdays, or the way he stopped asking how her day went after the third year. It wasn't even the time he said, "You're too sensitive," when she cried after he forgot to pick up his mother's prescription again the day she'd had her biopsy results. No, it was the quiet accumulation of small betrayals so tiny, she'd convinced herself they weren't betrayals at all. Just life, just stress, just him. Every woman has been here at least once, loving someone long after they stopped showing up, not physically, but emotionally. Loving the idea of who they used to be, or who you hoped they'd become. Loving the ghost of potential, while the real person sat beside you, scrolling, half listening, already checked out. His name was Daniel. They met in Portland, at a friend's rooftop gathering June. Golden hour, the kind of light that makes even ordinary faces look cinematic. He wore a navy linen shirt, rolled at the sleeves, smelled like bergamot and rain. He laughed at her dry joke about city parking, and when he leaned in to hear her over the music, his forearm brushed hers, and something inside her clicked, like a door she didn't know was locked finally swinging open. For 2 years it was good. Not fireworks, more like embers, steady, warm, reliable. He remembered her coffee order. He held her hair back when she got food poisoning. He called her my person once, on a road trip through the Columbia River Gorge, and she replayed that sentence in her head for weeks. But somewhere around year 3, the embers began to cool. Not dramatically, no slammed doors, no shouting matches, just a slow dimming. He stopped initiating plans. Whatever you want became his default answer to dinner, to movies, to whether they should get a dog. He'd nod while she spoke, eyes fixed on his phone, thumb scrolling. When she brought up feelings, "I miss us talking," he'd sigh, rub his temples, say, "I'm just exhausted, okay? Can we not do this tonight?" She learned to shrink her needs, to time her vulnerability for weekends, when he wasn't burned out. She began pre-editing her emotions. Is this worth the emotional labor it'll take to explain it? Is he even in capacity to receive this? She started measuring love not in words or gestures, but in absence of conflict, a dangerous metric. One rainy Tuesday in March, she found herself Googling, "Is it normal to feel lonely in a relationship?" The top result, emotional abandonment isn't always intentional, but it still hurts like betrayal. She closed the tab, made tea, sat on the floor of the bathroom, back against the cabinet, knees drawn to her chest. What she couldn't admit not yet was that she wasn't just lonely with him. She was lonely because of him. The worst part wasn't his distance. It was how good she got at compensating for it. She'd planned date nights for both of them. Bring him soup when he was sick. Text his mum happy birthday for him. Defend him to her friends. He's just going through a lot at work. He's not cold, he's just reserved. He shows love in quiet ways. She became the curator of his humanity, polishing the parts the world saw, hiding the cracks only she knew how to find. And in doing so, she let her own voice grow softer. Then came the anniversary, their 5th. She booked a cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains wood-burning stove, clawfoot tub, 0 cell service, a real disconnect. She packed his favourite trail mix, bought a bottle of that Oregon Pinot he liked, wrote a letter not sappy, just honest. "Remember when we got lost on that hike near Multnomah Falls? You held my hand the whole way back, even though your ankle was swelling. I miss that certainty." They drove up Friday evening. Rain misted the windshield. He drove in silence, AirPods in, one hand on the wheel, the other tapping his thigh to some beat only he could hear. At the cabin, she lit candles, put the letter on his pillow. He came in, dumped his bag, scrolled Instagram while she built the fire. At dinner, heating up the pasta she'd pre-made, he glanced at the letter, then set it aside. "I'll read it later. Starving." She watched him eat. The way he chewed with his mouth slightly open. The way his eyes never lifted from his phone, not even when she told him about the fox she'd seen darting across the meadow that afternoon. Later, in bed, she reached for his hand. He shifted away. "Long day. Let's just sleep." She lay there, staring at the ceiling beams, listening to the rain tap the tin roof. And for the first time in years, a thought surfaced, not angry, not desperate, but terrifyingly calm. He's not tired. He's just not here. Not physically. But here, in the room, in the relationship, in her. The realization didn't crash over her. It seeped in, slow, cold, undeniable, like groundwater rising through cracked concrete. He didn't change. He'd always been like this. She'd just mistaken potential for presence. She'd confused consistency with connection. She'd called silence peace. And she, brilliant, empathetic, fiercely loyal, had spent years building a home inside a man who never invited her in. The unraveling didn't happen in a single conversation. It happened in fragments in the space between texts left unread. In the way he'd say, "I love you," like it was punctuation, not a promise. In the way he'd recount his day to her like she was a voicemail inbox. Factual, efficient, devoid of feeling. She began noticing things she'd trained herself to ignore. Like how he never asked follow-up questions. "How was your presentation?" "Fine. Good. End of exchange." Like how, when her best friend was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, he offered to send flowers, but never asked how she was holding up, even though she'd spent 3 nights in the hospital, holding her friend's hand during chemo prep. Like how he remembered his co-worker's dog's birthday but forgot their own 6-month reconnection plan they'd made after their first real fight. A fight, mind you, she had to schedule because he kept saying, "Not now, babe, I'm drained." The cognitive dissonance was exhausting. Her brain kept trying to reconcile the man she knew, the one who cried at Inside Out, who rescued that shivering kitten from a storm drain, against the man who couldn't sit with her grief for more than 7 minutes before checking Slack. And then, one ordinary Thursday, it snapped. She was folding laundry. He was on the couch watching a documentary about deep-sea vents again. He loved ocean documentaries. She'd watched The Blue Planet with him 5 times. She held up a shirt, his shirt, the one with the tiny tear near the cuff she'd carefully stitched with navy thread. She'd done it quietly, late one night while he slept. A small act of devotion, invisible labour. And in that moment she saw it all, the stitching, the silence, the way she kept repairing what he never noticed was broken. Her hands stilled. She didn't cry, didn't yell, she just stopped, walked to the couch, sat beside him, not close, not far, just present. He glanced over. "Hey." She looked at the screen, the glowing hydrothermal vents, alien and beautiful, spewing superheated minerals into the abyss. Creatures clinging to life in total darkness, sustained only by heat they couldn't see. "Do you ever wonder," she said, voice steady, "if we're just surviving, not living, just surviving each other?" He paused the video. For the first time in months, he looked at her, really looked. Not past her, not at her phone over her shoulder, at her. His brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer right away. Let the silence settle. Let him feel its weight. "I mean, I don't miss you when you're gone. I miss the idea of you. The version of you I built in my head, the one who'd show up. The one who'd ask how my friend's doing. The one who'd read the letter." He opened his mouth, closed it. "I try," he finally said. "I'm just not good at this stuff." "No," she said gently, "you're not. And that's okay. But my job isn't to teach you how to love me. My job is to love myself enough to stop waiting for you to learn. No blame, no rage, just clarity." He didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't promise to change. He just exhaled long, slow, like a man realizing he's been holding his breath for years. They stayed like that for 10 minutes, the documentary screen frozen on a swarm of ghostly white shrimp dancing in 700 degrees Fahrenheit water. Then he stood, went to the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of water, brought one to her. She took it, didn't drink. 3 days later, he moved out. Not dramatically, not with boxes labelled regrets or my fault, just boxes. Taped, labelled in his neat architect's handwriting, books, kitchen, winter gear. She helped him load the car. They stood by the curb, November air sharp with wood smoke. "I hope you find what you need," he said. "I already did," she replied. He nodded, got in the car, drove away. No music, no last look in the rear view. Just an ending, quiet, clean, final. The first week alone, she didn't feel free. She felt exposed, like she'd spent 5 years wearing noise-cancelling headphones, and suddenly the world was too loud, too bright, too hers. She cried in the shower, not for him, for her, for the woman who tucked herself away to make space for someone else's limitations. She scrolled through old photos, not to torture herself, but to study, to see the subtle shifts, how her smile in year 1 reached her eyes, bright and unrestrained, how by year 4 it was smaller, tighter, like she was bracing. She didn't delete them, she archived them, not as evidence of failure, but as proof of survival. She started small, made coffee and drank it while watching the sunrise, no phone, no agenda. Went to the farmer's market alone, bought strawberries she didn't have to share, ate 3 on the walk home, juice running down her wrist, reconnected with her sister, no filter, no, he's just stressed preamble, just, I think I lost myself. Her sister didn't flinch, just hugged her and said, "Welcome back." Therapy helped not to fix the relationship, but to untangle the wiring, to understand why she'd mistaken patience for love, endurance for strength. Her therapist said something she'll never forget. "You weren't blind. You were hopeful. There's a difference. Hope isn't weakness. It's courage believing in goodness, in growth, in the possibility of change. But hope, untethered from reality, becomes self-abandonment. She began to rebuild not a new life, but the life she'd paused. She signed up for that pottery class she'd wanted to try for years. Got clay under her nails, made a lopsided bowl, kept it on her windowsill. She started journaling not, "What did I do wrong, but what do I need now?" One entry read, "I don't need a man who loves me in theory. I need one who loves me in practice, who shows up not because it's easy, but because I'm worth the effort." And slowly, the loneliness shifted. It wasn't the hollow, aching void of missing him. It was the spacious, sacred quiet of coming home to herself. She realized he didn't change. His emotional unavailability, his conflict avoidance, his quiet withdrawal, they'd been there all along. Subtle at first, then undeniable. She just hadn't had the language, the self-trust, the permission to name it. Clarity isn't a lightning bolt. It's the slow return of light after a long eclipse. You don't wake up one day and see clearly. You wake up one day and stop looking away. If you feel this, like the video so more women see this, comment, "I'm healing if you're going through this too." Subscribe for more stories like this, because healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering yourself.